TV's been the most consistent over time for sure and creates the most volume. We get in front of a seller, we build relationships, we build rapport, and we're not really pushy. We're just very much like, we're here to consult you and help you figure out if we are a good fit or not a good fit. And if we're not, cool, we'll help connect you to somebody who's a better option. Problem solving and creativity is probably up there. You know, in this space, you got to be a problem solver and you got to be creative. I think the other thing too is just being willing to take massive imperfect action. It starts out, you got to start hiring people for one. You got to be able to build a business that you can start replacing yourself in. That's been a big key to success. So a lot of what I do now is...
What's going on? Welcome back to the REM podcast. Today we have Corey, who is doing a ton of deals up in Green Bay. Corey, great to have you.
Yeah, excited to be here, man.
Awesome. Cool. What specifically drew you to real estate investing?
I guess the short answer of the long story, my wife and I, we were doing a lot of network marketing back in the day, and we got a little taste of residual income from that. And we were like, dang, we like the residual income, but we hated having to hunt family and friends down to buy our products, right? So we started going like, man, how do we get more of that residual income coming in the door, right? And so we read Rich Dad Poor Dad, like a lot of real estate investors out there, right? And we're like, oh my gosh, we need to start doing real estate. So that was really where we shifted all of our focus over to try to get into this industry as quickly as we could.
That's awesome. And what does your business look like today?
Right now, we got about 15 employees on our wholesale flipping company. So we do a lot, 90% wholesale, probably 10% flip, probably do about 220 deals this year, which is our best year volume wise ever. And then my wife and I have our own portfolio of some short-term rentals and long-term rentals, about 130, 140 units of that. And we're looking to add to that coming up in 2026. We're going to put a big focus on continuing to grow that unit count.
Awesome. What was life like for yourself before investing?
Honestly, it was really overwhelming. Like I felt kind of hopeless. Like I was in jobs. I was always making good money, quote unquote, right? According to most people's standards. But it just felt like we were never able to get ahead. Like I was never going to get out of this trap of the 9 to 5. Like my personality profile, if anybody's out there and knows like the predictive index at all, I'm a maverick on there. So like being in somebody's rules and structure and all that, like I don't usually do well in those situations. And I just felt like, man, I'll be as successful as I can be at every job I go to, but I'm never going to be completely happy like working for somebody else. So I had to get out. I just didn't know the avenue to get there or like how I was ever going to get to a point where I could afford to replace the income I was making with something that I was driving my own. Plus there was a lot of imposter syndrome, right? Like I've never like ran a full scale company before, done real estate, or I didn't grow up with real estate. Nobody in my family had real estate. So I think there was a lot of limiting beliefs too, getting started, a lot of fear around like, is this even a reality or a possibility to be able to eventually be doing this full time, you know?
Oh, for sure. When it comes to when you started the business, was there a specific problem that you were trying to solve with the business?
Personally, it was really about getting out of my 9 to 5, right? That was the main driver. My intensity level out of a 10 was up there. Like I was pretty close to doing whatever it took to get out of there. If I had what I thought was like a viable option, a viable vehicle to get out, I was going to go down that path, which is why we were doing the network marketing thing we did it for 5 years. Like thought, man, if we can just build up this residual enough, we'll be able to get out of the job. That's kind of the goal. In the marketplace, when I started, man, our market's pretty small. People were wholesaling deals, but they weren't like running it like a business. Like it was very like at a RIA meeting, so-and-so would talk to somebody and they're like, oh, I'll buy that deal from you if you don't want it. And they would quote unquote wholesale it, but there was nobody like really running it at a high level and a high scale. And I didn't know what the hell wholesaling was when I started. So I got into it to buy rentals to get me the passive income. And then once I got into it and I did a few wholesale deals, I was like, dang, there's a big opportunity here to like really turn this into a business and fill a need here in our market that wasn't really there.
That's awesome. What's the biggest misconception about what you offer to most people?
There's always skepticism on both sides, right? The sellers are going to have the skeptical side of like, am I getting scammed? Are they going to try to steal my house? Which I still don't even know how people do that, but apparently you can do that. And then on the buyer side, there's always skepticism, right? Like, what am I buying? These guys are obviously trying to sell me a deal. They're going to tell me whatever. And so we try to provide some value on both sides of that. On the seller side, it's really, we focus heavy on reviews from the sellers and getting those 5-star reviews on all the different channels that we can. On the buyer side, when we're dispoing a property, we provide third-party home inspection reports They're like, here it is. Now you know what, it's full transparency. We're not hiding anything from you. This is the information we have. We're going to pass it over to you. And so we try to build trust that way. We try to do a lot of coaching as well for free for people in our market to try to help them, whether they buy a deal from us or they don't. It's just a value add that we try to provide to help people get into the space and get into this industry, because it is the best industry in my opinion. I don't know if there's another industry that's as accessible as this is and can create as much wealth as this can for the average person out there.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to your deal volume, obviously take some marketing behind that. What are you doing currently for marketing, and what are you seeing work the best for marketing?
We're doing the 3 big channels, I call it. So we've got TV, PPC, and direct mail. Those are the 3 main marketing channels. TV's been the most consistent over time for sure and creates the most volume, but deal size wise and right now ROI wise, we're seeing actually direct mail is our best lead source from just a return on ad spend. That's been our best in 2025, but that always fluctuates. It kind of depends on the year and what happens, but those 2 have been volume wise, TV, and ROI wise, direct mail has been the best.
Yeah. A lot of people are, I would say, scared about where the market's at right now or worrisome. Where do you think the market's at right now, and what are you seeing currently in your day-to-day?
Man, if you would have asked me 2 months ago, I'd be like, shoot, market's doing great. It's really seemed like something tripped in October. I don't know what it was, but it just feels different. Like every October is always slower for us up north, right? It's always like people back in school. Everybody's not focused on moving or buying properties or that kind of thing. So it's always a little bit slower this time of year, but it feels a little different this time of year or this year around. So I don't have data to support that one way or the other or any kind of statistics that I'm like, yep, look at this. This is why. It's just an overall, like we're putting flips out that should sell pretty quickly and they're sitting and we're having to do price drops and that sort of thing is what we're seeing. So it definitely feels different, but again, it's always cyclical. I go like this every year in the north. I'm like, dang, the market sucks. Like what's going on? And then all of a sudden, like the second week of January, it's like somebody flips a switch and everybody turns back on to the market's right back to normal. Everybody forgets about the last quarter and they're on the next year. So I don't know.
Want to get motivated sellers that nobody knows about? Introducing 10x TV. If you want to create credibility in your market, find deals that nobody else knows about, and crush your competition, you need to check into TV commercials. It is the new buzz in the real estate investing industry since we introduced it several years ago. I've been using TV commercials myself for the last 12 years and it's absolutely crushed it. So if you want to learn how to get on TV and to do something that little to no people are doing right now, go to claimmymarket.com. Again, that's claimmymarket.com. We usually only work with 2 investors per market, so if you're interested, reach out to us and book a call to see if you can claim your market before anybody else does. Now back to the show.
Are you seeing different price points selling at different rates? Obviously, usually the first-time home buyer price point always goes the fastest, but are you seeing that really prevalently right now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've got some stuff like in our market, I would say like average sale price, depending on which city you're talking about, but just in general, we'll call it 300,000 is probably a pretty good after repair value, sale price. So anything above that in that 400 range, we're definitely seeing sitting. We've got a couple of those that have been sitting for a little bit, are taking a lot longer than they should have. We're getting offers. We're just having to do some price drops, and what we thought the ARVs were, we're having to come off of those a little bit from what should have happened. If this is March next year, maybe we were spot on, but at least this time of year, we're seeing we got to adjust some of those prices on the higher end price points for sure.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that as well. Even in the mid tier, we're kind of seeing that too. So, well, sweet. Well, now a word from today's sponsor. Funny enough, just talking about TV, our sponsor today is 10x TV, the weapon behind some of the most successful real estate investors in the country. Here's the deal. Most investors are stuck cold calling, texting, or spending hours chasing down low quality leads. But the smart ones, they're utilizing TV and flipping the script. With 10x TV, motivated sellers are calling them already warmed up, already trusting them because they've seen them on TV. It's high credibility, high leverage, and way less hustle. This isn't a theory. The founder of 10x TV has been a real estate investor for the last 24 years. and TV has been his number one lead channel for the last 13 years. So want to find out if your market's available, go to 10xtv.co for a free marketing audit and see how TV could be to your advantage. Again, that's 10xtv.co. Awesome. Cool. Any key strategies that you guys are seeing right now that you guys are utilizing?
Oh man, key strategies. I don't know. We're direct to seller, belly to belly. So I know there's a lot of guys in some of the mastermind groups I'm in and that kind of stuff that are virtual and volume wise, I think they do okay that way. But I was just talking to a guy who's doing a pretty high level volume of novations virtually. And, on the surface, when I asked him like how many you're doing this year, that number was really impressive. And then I said, well, how many of those will actually close? And it was only like 50% of them. So I think what we do really well is, we get in front of a seller, we build relationships, we build rapport, and we're not really pushy. We're just very much like, we're here to consult you and help you figure out if we are a good fit or not a good fit. And if we're not, cool, we'll help connect you to somebody who's a better option. If we are a good fit, cool, let's talk about doing a deal. And it's pretty, I would say, casual in that sense of things. Not knocking virtual stuff. I mean, people are doing it and they're doing great, but I think that's been working really well for us is just getting in front of people and building those relationships.
Yeah, I've always wondered. I mean, we're also belly to belly, so I'm always curious how people can do that much volume, and obviously the fallout rate's a lot higher. So I always have enjoyed belly to belly more, just seeing it from a third eye view for sure. What often mistakes do you see investors make that you feel like could be easily avoided?
Oh man, there's so many mistakes. So many mistakes. I think the one I see often avoided though is like, this is kind of a bigger overall theme. I don't think people get really clear on their bigger picture first. It's like when you start anything, that first deal can really punch you in the face and can deter you. And if you don't have that stronger vision of why you got into this, you could easily just pack up your bags and go back to your W-2 and call it a day. The people that I see are the most successful in this space, the buyers that we work with are really clear on what they're doing, why they're doing it, and monetarily or deal wise or whatever it is, they have a clear goal of what needs to happen. And they're very focused on that. So they have the long-term vision and then they just work it backwards into like the immediate, what do I need to do today to get me closer to that goal? And the people that don't do that and are just out there kind of winging it, they're not grounded at all. They're not rooted at all. And the first time they get punched in the face, they're gone. They're right back to their old life. So that to me, I mean, there's a lot of tactical things we could talk about on that thing, but I think just overall big vision wise, it's usually what I see deters a lot of people in this space is getting just sidewinded by a deal on their first one, and then they're gone.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed, especially on, first time investors, if the first deal is not profitable, they're usually not coming back. So, for the first, people trying to get into real estate, they're just trying to do a deal, but they don't realize how important the first deal really is. So instead of trying to do a deal, trying to do a great deal, and that's really the key difference. So I love that. Obviously in this space, there's people that claim to be real estate investors, and then there's, really high end top investors. What do you think separates the top investors from really anybody else in your experience?
I think problem solving and creativity is probably up there. In this space, you got to be a problem solver and you got to be creative. I think the other thing too is just being willing to take massive imperfect action. Like we said, just kind of going back to that last point, even if that first deal isn't a killer deal, even if you lose money on that first deal, I think if you have the bigger vision of why you're doing that, you can push through that and understand, okay, that's the price of tuition, so to speak. Like that's the cost to learning this business. Sometimes you got to take some punches in the face and take some lumps to get there. The most successful people I see are just always moving forward. Like, okay, I mean, I got hit with that. I'm going to learn from that. I'm not going to make that same mistake again. Let's learn from that and grow into the next one. And then they're just continually going forward. They're continually moving forward. The other thing that they're doing is they're getting around other people that are in the space. They're listening to podcasts like this, right? They're growing themselves and they're learning consistently all the time. Like, I got a good buddy of mine. He's got like 6,000 rental units that he owns 100%, him and his wife, and they still are always learning. Like they're always growing, they're always stretching themselves, So it's an interesting thing, to see again, the people that are not at that level is again, they think like, okay, I can listen to this one podcast. I'll go do a deal and it's going to work out. I'm going to make $50,000. Life's going to be great. Well, that's not how it always works out. And so they got to be willing to learn from those mistakes if that didn't quite work out the way they thought and be willing to push forward and go on to the next one.
Yeah. Speaking of that, a lot of people think coming into this business, it's just going to be easy peasy, going to get rich overnight. When it comes to you doing someone, coming from someone that's doing 200 plus deals a year, how do you balance that work-life balance? Because most investors get into the business so that they can have their own schedule and be time free. How do you balance that? And how do you, make sure that you aren't just in the rat race, but not in the rat race, if that makes sense?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's always a challenge, I think, for me personally speaking. It starts out, you got to start hiring people for one. You got to be able to build a business that you can start replacing yourself in. That's been a big key to success. So a lot of what I do now is, I mean, yes, I quote unquote have to work, but I could also just not, and we'd probably still be fine, right? Like maybe we wouldn't do as many deals, but we'd still be profitable and it'd be fine. So that's a real key piece. I think the thing that holds a lot of people back, especially in like the flipping space and the rental space, is they want to self-manage the properties, or they want to get in and swing hammers and be as profitable as they can on the deal. And one of the key metrics I always look at is profit per hour. So what am I making per hour for the amount of work I'm putting in? We used to run a mastermind group ourselves, and we had a exercise. We had everybody go through and do that. We had to pick 2 deals, one that they hired out the stuff and one that they were in doing a lot of the work, and try to figure out what their profit per hour was. And I remember we had a guy there, he was a plumber at the time by trade. So he's a very handy guy, very mechanically inclined. And he had a deal where he did the flip and he made like $40,000 on the flip. And when he factored out roughly, like he didn't have, exact numbers, but figured out he was making like $350 an hour, $400 an hour, which is great. Right. Awesome income for most people. But then we had him do another one where he hired it out. And so we had, factor in how much time did it take you to buy the deal, get the lending for both of them, and then manage the project and that kind of thing. And he only made like $20,000 on that deal, but his profit per hour was like $1,200. And you could see the light bulb switch for him where he was like, man, if I can just hire people, it's a who, not how problem, right? And I can just leverage those people, and I can now do 5 deals with way less time and effort. My body's not getting beat up. I'm not in there having to be the one to do the deal. Now I can really just scale that to as big as I can get, where I have reliable people that can do it. And now it becomes my job every day is finding reliable people, not drywalling or fixing plumbing leaks. Right. And
yeah.
I'm making way more money doing that. Right. And now the system operates, whether I'm in there fixing it or not, I got profit coming in. So yeah, I think that's a big key, is just leveraging those who's out there.
Yeah. Delegation is definitely key when it comes to people and surrounding yourself with other investors that are doing stuff. You keep talking about, friends that are doing this and friends that are doing that. How do you stay connected with people? Are you in any masterminds? What would you tell someone that's maybe afraid to spend money on a mastermind, to be around like-minded people? And what is the difference you've seen in that versus just being on an island by yourself?
Oh man, that's key. Like, I got a podcast as well. And I think every episode, every guest I bring on talks about network and how big how big and important it is to have a network of other people that you can bounce stuff off of or learn from or that kind of thing. And so that's been huge. Like we run a meetup group in Green Bay. I think it's like $100 for the year or something. And it's like nothing for the value that you get out of it. And then there's other groups, like I belong to a group called Collective Genius, and I've been in that now 5 or 6 years, and it's not cheap, I'll tell you that. But the ROI out of that group has been unbelievable. Like you could see our income level over the years. And then we joined and it was like hockey stick, right? So you just speed that curve up so much. And again, it depends, I guess, for everybody out there. If they just want to do a couple deals a year and that scratches the itch for them, cool. Probably don't need a mastermind for that. But if you have some goals of freedom and being out doing this, on a full-time level, I definitely think you got to invest in yourself. You're your best asset. So the more you can invest in yourself and your education and your network and your connections, the quicker you're going to get to that goal, and the more profitable you're going to be. And when you get in trouble, it's great to have people that can, hey man, have you ever seen this before? How did you navigate it? What do I do? And you got that network of people that have been there before you and can guide you through those tough times too.
Yeah, it's awesome. When it comes to goals and success, specifically success, a lot of people define it differently. A lot of people look at it differently. What does success mean to you, and how do you strive for that every single day?
Oh man, that's a good question. How do I define success? I mean, for me personally, it's, am I able to be present with my family? If I'm successful in my head, then when I'm around my family, I can be unplugged and be with them. I know when I'm feeling like I'm not successful, I'm stressed out. I'm like on the phone, I'm checking stuff. I'm trying to get deals going, I'm trying to get manufacturer success, quote unquote. But if I'm successful, things are operating smooth. Our team is doing what they need to do. I'm irrelevant basically when it comes to the business, which is the goal, I think, is to be irrelevant in my own business. So they don't need me. They can function without me. And we're able to continue to live a life of financial success and freedom that provides, opportunities for our kids and our family and all the things that we value in our life.
That's awesome. Awesome. I love it. Cool. Well, the huge buzzword now is AI. When it comes to AI, how are you using it, and how do you think it's going to change the game in the next 5 to 10 years?
Who knows, man? That's a great question too. It's changing so fast that it's almost overwhelming to try to keep up with all the stuff that's changing. Honestly, in our business, we don't do a ton of AI stuff. Like I would love to use AI more. It's just, I think there's a big learning curve there too, like anything, right? Like we can just start implementing some things and we're taking some imperfect action as it comes to AI. We're not using it nearly as much as I think we could use it. A couple of areas we use it. We use ChatGPT, obviously. I think everybody out there by now, hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, you use ChatGPT. Yeah. But we've created some of our own custom GPTs for different call reviews. And so we can have the call transcript zapped into some of the GPTs we've created for the different roles in our company. And then we give it the parameters to tell us like how we want it to evaluate that call and what kind of feedback to give that team member. And then that's slacked over to that team member so they can read through every time they do a call over a certain amount of minutes, they're getting instant feedback on it versus like previous to that, me as the sales trainer, so to speak, in our business, like I would have to sit and listen to as many calls as I could, then get them down, have them listen to it while I'm giving them the feedback. And it was super time consuming. And so now it's very easy for us if we want to look at how they're performing. We can just pull up some of their call transcripts, go through some of the highlights of what chat's picking up as things that are opportunities for improvement, also talk about the things they're doing really well. And it just cuts down so much on the time needed to do actual any coaching. Now, I don't even have to do the coaching anymore. I force them sometimes to sit down and actually read through them, but they could just do that on their own and just pull them up and look at like, okay, what are the consistent patterns in some of these call reviews that I'm not seeing? There's deal analysis we use it for as well. So we've built some calculators in chat to just run deals through and some different things to give us some quicker equations. It's still not perfect on the math. So I always encourage everybody like check the math because chat still sometimes messes up the numbers a little bit. But those are probably a couple of the big things that we're using it for that have really helped us out a lot.
Yeah, chat's been absolutely game changer. So if you're not using it, it's or some sort of chat, if it's Claude or whatever, whichever one you want to use, but definitely helping a lot. If you were to restart the whole business from scratch today, you keep your knowledge, but everything else is gone. The whole business is gone. What would you focus on first?
Oof. What would I focus on first? Man, I'd probably try to hire somebody as quickly as possible. I mean, right out of the gates, I would start out getting a high quality A player on my team to drive most of the day-to-day stuff, and just immediately go back to trying to free that calendar up to get me back into, either doing something else I'm really passionate about, or, add another person once they're up and running or whatever the case is. But that once we started getting over our fear of hiring people and bringing people into the team, and how are we going to pay them, and how does payroll tax work, and blah, blah, all these other little like limiting beliefs. As soon as we started doing that, it was like same kind of thing as when we joined the mastermind. It was like all of a sudden you can see the business start to really take off and scale.
When it comes to hiring, you kind of just said it, but what would you tell someone that's afraid of hiring, or let me ask you a different question, because you kind of just answered that. When it comes to first-time hire, I usually tell people certain diagrams that Tony really talks about a lot to do that first. But who and what would you hire first for someone that is just starting out in real estate? And what would you recommend them to hire for? Because I feel like a lot of people go for something that they might not be ready for.
A couple things with that, to go back to the fear thing. One of our early mentors always told us, like, just save up, 3 to 6 months of their salary. And that way, if they don't work out, hopefully you learn something in that process, but you're not quote unquote out anything really then at that point, or it doesn't feel like you are. You're not coming out of it. So you got to kind of set aside, right? So that was helpful for us just mentally to be like on the financial side of things, okay with hiring somebody. The other thing I think is really powerful is when you can sit down and write down all the things that you do in your business and then start to look at the things that you're not good at or you don't think are like your superpower or more your kryptonite, like you dread doing them. Like bookkeeping is a great one. You don't even have to hire obviously hire a full-time bookkeeper, but a lot of times I see people hire that bookkeeper really late and then they're like January. I remember January coming around and it's tax time. And I have to go through and try to remember a year's worth of expenses and what it all was and track down all my receipts. It was brutal, just brutal. And you're missing out on a lot of money that way by not getting the deductions properly. So like an easy one out there right now for anybody listening to this, if you don't have a bookkeeper, we were doing like a deal every 2 months. So, I mean, we were doing like 6 deals a year. And one of our mentors was like, yeah, you need a bookkeeper. And he would be like the guy that was like, hey, he'd give us a ton of value for free. And he's like, don't come back next month to our meeting unless you did X, Y, Z. And the first meeting we had with him, he's like, don't come back next month unless you hired a bookkeeper. I'm like, dude, we don't even have it. Like, what? What are they going to book? He's like, trust me. Just get a bookkeeper. I'm like, okay. So I'm telling you guys all out there, same advice I got. It was some of the best advice I got because I hated doing the books, like hated it. So that's been really helpful for me. Anytime I'm starting to feel like stressed out. In fact, I just went through this with my operations manager. I'm starting to feel like, man, I'm taking on a lot of stuff. Like I should have a freer calendar than I do. What am I doing every day? And just kind of taking that time audit of like, where's my time going? What are the things I like to do? What are the things I dread doing? What are the things I'm good at, but probably could delegate? And starting to pick those pieces apart and figure out, is there a certain person that could take that off my plate for me? And then I go hire that person to go do those specific things. And then hopefully that frees me up to be more in my genius zone and the things I'm really good at and can double down on those things that bring me joy, fill me up with energy and get all the draining stuff off my plate.
Yeah. I mean, I always go back to the diagram. I mean, there's really 3 things. I mean, you're either good at it and you like it, and you're good at it and you don't like it, or you're bad at it and you really don't like it. That should be the first to go, then the next, then the next. I mean, you know what I mean? As a business owner, I never understood why people do stuff they don't like doing. Like the whole reason you're an entrepreneur is to do things you like doing. So that always really
for sure.
Me, but yeah, I've always loved that diagram.
Well, I think it's an awareness thing too. Like it's like having listening to this podcast right now, somebody's going to listen to this and they're going to go, holy crap, I didn't even realize I'm doing all this stuff I don't like doing, but that's why I'm stressed out every day. Why don't I just take the 10 minutes to write down the stuff I'm bad at and don't like doing, and then put together a job chat, get on chat, tell it all the things you don't like doing, have it create a job description for you, go post that job description, done.
Oh yeah. I've had people do that and come back and be like, my life is so much more stressful. 2 weeks after even. Like it's a simple process, but it's something that most people don't really think about. So
for sure.
On a more personal side, what's something someone or the people listening would be surprised to learn about you?
And I don't know if this is going to be groundbreaking or not, but I can do a pretty good Michael Jackson dance, dude. I'm just saying. You give me a couple drinks and a good wedding or something, I'll be out there cutting a rug. You'll be surprised to see this white boy out there dancing like MJ. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. I love it. Oh, when it comes to what we were talking about earlier, as far as success and succeeding in life, what really strives you to push and keep innovating to succeed in life?
I think it's just the challenge now. Like it's gotten to that point where I'm always kind of like, am I in a space? It's just, self-reflection, right? Like, am I in a space or in a business or in a role that I'm being challenged to grow in? Am I living up to my full potential in this role? God gave me all these abilities and these gifts and all these other things, and he gave everyone a set of gifts and talents and things like that. And so part of me is like this duty to be like, am I living up to am I being a good steward of my talents and gifts and that sort of stuff? And so I think that's more so where I'm at nowadays, is like that challenge. The other part is my family's a big piece of it too. So I struggle with this a little bit of like, how much do I continue to push on the business side of things versus like, is that set of gifts better used in my house? Like with my kids, with my wife, like you don't really get to measure it as much. So I think for people in business, that can be a struggle for a lot of us out there, is like, we can't really measure monetarily, like
The
how good we're
KPI
doing at
or-
home. Yeah, there's no KPI or anything. Like you can set up KPIs, like how many times, how many dates you do with your kids or your wife or whatever. You could set some of that up, but it's still, for me as a business owner and a financially driven person, it's still always a struggle, right? I'm like, okay, I don't see in the bank account that I just did this, right? And there's that relational capital that you build, but it's a little bit tougher. So I think for me, it's a challenge of like, how do I continue to push in business and continue to grow my potential with my skill sets in the business world and innovate and create and those kinds of things, but also be mindful that I don't need to get sucked into like, not giving everything I can to my family too. So
Yeah. Who has been the biggest influence or mentor for you since coming into the business?
there's been so many, man. I got a local guy here that really helped me out. As I mentioned, his name's Caleb Hayes. He was a guy who would sit with me monthly, me and my wife, and just give us, like I said, like kind of that hard coaching of like, don't come back unless you do blah, blah, blah. But it was really, really good for us. We got another local guy. He's a hard money lender by us. His name's Tony Breuer. He was really instrumental early on. And then some other guys, there's a guy out there named Tom Kroll. Some people might know. He used to run Wholesaling Inc. It was called. He's been a good friend of ours now since we joined up with those guys. And he's always been there. And his whole crew was amazing to help us get started in this business. Kiyosaki's the guy, that started the whole thing, right, for us as far as the idea. So there's so many. It's hard to say one was the most influential because they all played a really important role in shaping us.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, cool. Where can people find more about you? Where can people reach out to you? Where can people find you?
Yeah, so we got a podcast as well called The Wisconsin Investor. So if you're out there listening and you want some more of this real estate nuggets, we bring people on. It's not just the Wisconsin people, but most of them are going to be Wisconsin investors on there sharing their things that are working well or not working well, that kind of thing. Otherwise, Facebook Messenger is probably the easiest way. I don't even really go on Facebook anymore. I get delegated that. So I got somebody to do my Facebook posting for me, but I still have Messenger so people can still interact and that kind of thing. That's probably the easiest way to find me on there. Just put my name in. I think I'm the only one out there. So
awesome. Any final advice for investors looking to grow or scale?
I think massive imperfect action, man. That's it. That's one of the that's Tom Kroll. Actually, I remember he used to always tell me that. Just massive imperfect action. Just keep taking action. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need business cards or a website. Just go start having conversations, go network with people, just start moving forward in the process. And you'll look back and be grateful that you did years later. You stick with it.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for listening. Corey, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you guys next time.